Good afternoon, everybody. Someone asked me where my flag was yesterday. Well, I was trying something different in my last video because I was talking about the US election, so I've worn a different colour shirt then. But the flag's back now because I'm going to talk about something that concerns the United Kingdom today and something that is on a lot of people's minds, which is also very concerning to people and making a lot of people quite anxious and worried. But it's not something that couldn't be dealt with, and it's not something that governments couldn't have dealt with for the last 25 years, but successive governments have made worse and worse and worse. So what I'm talking about is something I've spoken about before, which is mass, rapid, illegal immigration across the English Channel and other places. And we now see this year, I think over 40,000 military-aged men have arrived in dinghies across the English Channel, and there's getting on for 100,000 military-aged men in the country illegally claiming asylum with bogus claims, and also claiming that they are modern slaves, making bogus claims about that, and trying to use loopholes in the laws which are there for the benefit of genuine asylum seekers, genuine victims of modern slavery. And it's absolutely appalling that military-aged men coming from France, which is a safe country, having come from Albania or somewhere else, which is also a safe country, or having travelled through Italy or Germany or Belgium, which are also safe countries, are paying lots of money to people smugglers to get into the UK. And then they're being advised by NGOs and profiteering human rights lawyers what to say to get through the loopholes, to use the loopholes in the law in order to anchor themselves in the UK once they're here. But there is a channel I found just recently on Twitter called Little Boats. It's fantastic. Little channel or account, if you like, that actually gives a list of the hotels around the UK where the fake Conservative government, using the Home Office, have been placing military-aged men while they stay in the country. And not much is done to remove many of them from the country. It's just a tiny, tiny fraction of the people that do arrive are actually removed in any way, shape or form. They have this Rwanda scheme, which is a load of nonsense, because since it was announced in April, not a single person has gone to Rwanda. But even among the people who are coming illegally from Albania, very, very few of them get sent back to Albania. In fact, over half of them, we hear, actually get their asylum claims approved, even though they're not asylum seekers, because they're coming from Albania, which is, at the moment, this year and for many years, not a country where people are in risk of losing their lives. So there's no reason why anybody from Albania should be claiming asylum, or even more, should be given asylum by the Home Office officials. Something's gone very, very wrong in the Home Office there. But yes, this site, as I was mentioned, I'll put a link to it in the box. It's very, very valuable work I think they're doing in collecting and collating data on the actual hotels around the country where these military-aged men are being put up. And we've seen in various places, a few places, reports. I mean, I've seen a report from, I think it's the Grand Hotel in Scarborough. There was a Holiday Inn in Rotherham and so on. I've seen reports of people staying there and kinds of behaviours which you don't really want if you want a quiet neighbourhood and you live near one of these hotels. Music blasting all night and other kinds of antisocial behaviour and so on. But this is actually a very, very good resource because it lists, they say, 320 hotels now in the UK, mostly in England, few in Wales, few in Cardiff, um, are being used to house these military-aged men. And wherever they are, there's a high probability that there will be an increase in antisocial behaviour because military-aged men have all the needs of military-aged men. We've seen that for a few decades in this country. I think you know what I'm talking about. This needs to stop, and the government needs to stop putting military-aged men who have come illegally to the country in hotels around the country, because it's no good for the towns that those hotels are in. It causes a nightmare for many of the residents in these towns. Women are unsafe in certain places because some of the people have criminal intent. And also, it's terrible for the local economy and ordinary working people, because when the Home Office takes over one of these hotels, they block book them for 6 months or a year or maybe even 2 years. I don't know. They're actually talking about houses now rather than the hotels, and giving landlords 5-year contracts to put up smaller numbers of illegal migrants coming over. But the hotels themselves are devastated because, well, the owners of the hotels make a nice little bit of money out of it. But what happens is that all of the workers get fired. The chefs, the cleaners, the reception staff, the people behind the scenes doing whatever needs to be done in a hotel, the waiters and waitresses, if there's restaurants, they all get fired. Just like that. And the Home Office bring in their own staff because they need specialised staff to make sure that their behaviour doesn't get too out of control. Not that they do a particularly good job in some places, because of the reports that you hear already, that are already out there, about explosions in antisocial behaviour around some of these hotels. And wasn't it just the other day there was a hotel, I think in Essex, where you had some military-aged men getting onto the roof to complain about the hotel, and they only just got there, and they've got like a nice board and lodging, and they're complaining about it. What also happens is terrible for people who want to use the hotel, because anyone who's made a booking to have a little holiday or a weekend break, or maybe a business trip, and even worse, people who have weddings booked, special events, but especially weddings, in some lovely, lovely country houses and hotels, are finding that the hotels that they've got their wedding booked in are just being taken in a block booking by the Home Office, and all their weddings are cancelled. Their wedding receptions are cancelled, which is just awful for people who are trying to start a life as a married couple and start a family, I imagine. And the government is coming in and ruining people's lives. They're ruining businesses. They're ruining local economies. And they're taking the bookings of the hotel and completely skewing the local economy in many, many areas in a way that is detrimental to the businesses, the workers, and many, many other businesses and workers and small businesses that service these hotels. And it ripples out when the government interferes in the economy in this kind of way. So what they need to do, as I've said, and other people are starting to say a little bit more now, good people with common sense like Godfrey Bloom and others, you need to push the boats back to France and just stop them coming to the UK in the first place. I mean, my goodness, we got a big enough moat around our island, haven't we? It's about 20 miles wide at the shortest point, you know? If Poland can stop migrants coming into their country with a little fence, you know, if Greece can push boats back and the distance between Turkey and Kos at the shortest point is about 5 miles. Australia can push the boats back that are coming over from Indonesia. Surely the United Kingdom can do exactly the same. But we've got a border force and a navy that are not protecting our borders. They're actively helping the invasion to continue, which is insane. And, you know, you get different actors and different puppets in the fake Conservative Party. They come onto the stage and then they leave the stage. There's Prime Minister Cameron, Home Secretary Theresa May. They said, we're going to reduce immigration to below 100,000. Did they ever? No, it went up to over 300,000. Then they exit. Theresa May comes back on as Prime Minister. And then you get Boris Johnson and you get Priti Patel as the Home Secretary. Did immigration go down? No, it went up, and then they all leave the stage, and then you have Liz Truss comes on and goes off again, and Rishi Sunak comes on, and Suella Braverman comes on as the Home Secretary, and she talks a better game than Priti Patel, who talked a better game than Theresa May. But has anything changed? Nothing has changed. The military-aged men keep on coming across the channel in larger and larger numbers every week, and they keep getting put up in more and more hotels around the country in different places, and the effects on the local communities and societies there continues to be negative. And the lovies that populate the TV studios and say, oh, this is terrible that you're saying that, how racist, how bigoted, whatever, all live in lovely, nice mansions or flats in, you know, I don't know whether they live in a nice house in Hampstead or whether they live in a nice house in Oxfordshire, I'm not sure. But most of them will never have to be affected by it and will never have to share their money and their space with military-aged men who've come across the channel illegally. That's left to people in towns and cities like Eastbourne and Torquay and Great Yarmouth and York and Scarborough and Cardiff and other places all around the country where the fake Conservatives, with the full support of Labour and the Lib Dems and the Greens and the SNP, via the Home Office, are spreading people around the country. It has to stop. We need to exit the UN Migration Compacts, the Barcelona Declaration, the Marrakesh Declaration, the European Convention on Human Rights, and perhaps even the UN Refugee Convention itself, because Section 31 can be interpreted in such a way that will give people leave to stay in the country even if they pass through a number of other safe countries. It depends on how you interpret it. But certainly we need a change in the Immigration and Asylum Act that was, I think, I can't remember the exact date, 1998, I think it was 1998, that allows anyone to stay in the country if they are claiming asylum. The assumption is made to believe them rather than not to believe them, even though it's obvious that many of them are just taking the mick. And it also, the law as we have it states that we need to give them benefits and bed and board, and they get rewarded. Now look, I'm not at all saying that if someone is a genuine asylum seeker, and this is the first safe country that they come to, we should look after them and care for them. Absolutely. But people who are taking the mick and are clearly not genuine asylum seekers, because if you have genuine asylum seekers fleeing a war, you won't have 90% plus men. The majority will actually be women and children. Where are the women and children? For many of these men that are coming over, the women and children are safely back at home in Albania, not in any danger whatsoever, which kind of proves that they're not genuine asylum seekers in the first place. Look, so as I say, genuine asylum seekers, yes, we have a long history of looking after people who are genuine asylum seekers, but the people who are taking the mick, they need to be put on a first plane back home.